Hello everyone, I'm Disha, student of Masters in Construction Engineering and Management program at CEPT University. I'm going to present my Studio One work, which is the Foundation Studio. The studio focused on understanding the conceptualization stage and the feasibility phase of a construction project. For the purpose of carrying out the process of the studio, a village development project is selected. The vision of the project is to generate an identity of a village by improving the village infrastructures. Objective of the project includes improving the four major infrastructures that are water supply, drainage, road, and stormwater. The client of the project is the Urban Development Authority and it's a brownfield project. Coming on to the problem and option analysis. Particularly for road infrastructure, the major problem that is identified is accessibility, which is caused due to random plot arrangement, kacha roads, and less width of roads. For that, the options identified for the problems are organizing the plot arrangement, bituminous road, and widening of the road. The major issues were identified in the problem analysis and options were generated which should be catered into the project. Coming on to the demand analysis for road infrastructures, demand drivers were identified which would be of a uh, great need for the project, and thus analysis what was done. Household survey was conducted which helped to identify the various issues on site at a first-hand basis from the villagers as well as the people of the Gram Panchayat. Here in the image you can see the road image, the blue, there are two roads marked. One is blue and the other is red. Red is the main access approach road which is currently in use by the people of the village. But the blue road is the newly constructed Mukhyamantri Gram Sadak Yojana road, which you can see in the picture. But due to lack of infrastructure facility on this road, people are not using this road, which was identified from the household analysis done. Therefore, demand analysis helped to identify the current issues and the demand of the people living and residing into the village, and thus the scope of work could be identified. Uh, this is the location analysis done for the road infrastructure. You can see this is the existing road network of the village. Here in the Gamtal area, there are two types of settlements as you can see. On the northern side, it's a scattered settlement, whereas the village which is currently developing towards the southern side, there you can see the organized uh, road network. This map shows the existing condition and the type of roads. Majorly, the approach road is the asphalt road. Majority of the interior roads are cement concrete roads, and majorly there are many cases where there are encroachments and the paver blocks are added into it. For as a part of the identifying and proposing a network for road, two types of options are done. In the option one, the sector planning is done, which helps us to uh, organize the plot arrangement. And for the same reason, the red mark is the Gamtal area, which is tried to be protected, and a road is developed adjacent to it, which would stop the random development. The sector planning is taken into consideration of the existing sector 11 planning, which is existing in the city of Gandhinagar, because the village is situated in Gandhinagar. The below option is for the providing the riverfront road, which is into the continuation of the nearby development which is occurring. This riverfront road would also cater to giving the people a good access and commute to the main road rather than going through the long approach road which is currently present. This is now coming on to the lean exercise which was conducted. It's a target value design. This process, it's a lean tool in which there are stakeholders like the client, the designer, BIM modeler, and the contractor. So among us in the group, we divided ourselves into various roles, and activity was done. Firstly, the client provided the strategic brief about the component which was selected. Further, the designer prepared the 2D layout, which was given to the BIM modeler who made the 3D model, and the bill of quantities was given to the contractor, of which the quantities and the costing was derived. For the purpose of this exercise, a component of bus station was selected because which would cater to the road infrastructure which is going to be constructed in the village, as presently the village doesn't have any bus station or public transport system in the village or near to the village. So major four spaces were to be designed: the ticket counter, the waiting areas, uh, the help desk, and the toilet area. In the process of D1, the cost identified was 8 lakh 84,000, and further there were several modifications which were done in the design 2 process, and I will discuss that in the further slide. Here, the design process 1 and 2 and their 3D models are mentioned here. In D1, we can clearly see that the bus station is more of enclosed, and it has metal chairs, which is replaced by RCC chairs in design process 2. Also, the bus stop is made more open rather than closed one in design process 2. The target cost which was decided was 7,50,000, but after doing the design calculation for the design process 2, the cost achieved was 7,46,000 approximately. So the decided reduction in percentage of cost was 15%, but uh, the achieved reduction in percentage was 15.6%. So, in order to conclude the exercise, I would like to say that it was figured out that if there is a linear approach by the different stakeholders, the cost achieved had come more. But by having a collaborative approach among the four stakeholders, we could drastically reduce the cost. So this would be beneficial for the project. Under the work breakdown structure of the infrastructure development project, 5 stages of project life cycle are identified, that are inception stage, project planning and development stage, procurement stage, execution stage, and closeout stage. In the inception stage, we have the project proposal, which is done by the client, the feasibility study, which is done by the master planning and detailed design consultant. Further, the master planning and detailed design consultant identifies the scope of work, legal and regulatory things, detailed project report, and resource planning and scheduling is done in the project planning and development stage. Procurement stage consists of various procurement of consultant as well as contractor. As a part of this project, there are the strategy is developed like into one is the master planning and detailed design consultant, which is hired before the feasibility study, because he is going to do the feasibility study. There are two PMC hired, PMC 1 is for drainage and water supply, PMC 2 is for road and pond development. Procurement of contractor is again done in two divisions, one for drainage and water supply and the other contractor for road and pond rejuvenation. As there are four infrastructure, there are four major deliverables which we can see under the execution stage, which is for the water supply infrastructure, sewerage infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure, and road infrastructure. Majorly, the closeout stage uh, defines and mentions the handover process and the documentation of the completed work done, particularly in the village. Coming into the detail work breakdown structure for the inception stage in the project proposal, majorly which it comes under the client scope in which the project goals and objectives are identified, development of preliminary scope of project is done, and identifying the project opportunities is done. In the feasibility stage, majorly it consists of all the deliverables and all the process which we had applied into our studio foundation studio thing, so which includes site analysis, demand analysis, technical analysis, economic analysis, as well as legal feasibility which was studied. In the procurement planning and development stage, majorly as discussed earlier, the scope of work is done along with taking, as it's a government project, government permits are needed to be taken, and legal procedures are to be looked upon. And in the detailed project report is to be formulated after the feasibility study, and detailed design is also to be done. Further resource planning and development uh, is to be done, and the scheduling process is to be done from the scope of work which is derived. Execution phase, as there are four infrastructures, I would like to further elaborate the scope of work under each infrastructures. Water supply infrastructure has the construction of elevated storage reservoir, sump, which is the underground storage reservoir, and water supply network, which is to be renewed in the village. In the sewerage infrastructure, there are two components. One is the sewage treatment plant, which would be of which would be of around 2 MLD, and the other is providing the sewerage drain network. Currently, the village doesn't have a solid black water solid waste network, which is the black water network. Only gray water network is there. That too, which is directly drained into the river, which is adjacent to the village. Uh, Coming on to the stormwater infrastructure, currently the existing pond, which is not in a better condition, it's to be rejuvenated, and also the stormwater drain network is to be looked upon, as there are various changes in the elevation in the village, which causes waterlogging issues, and that is to be addressed. The fourth is the road infrastructures. There are three major components of upgradation of road: new road construction, and amenities like street lights, bus stops, paver blocks, footpaths, and all are going to be provided. Coming on to the procurement part of the project, majorly two contractors and one consultant are being procured, as discussed earlier. Also, two PMC would be procured. This deliverable was the integration of the previous done exercises, and it formed previous exercises formed a basis in doing this procurement part. The like the work breakdown structure, scheduling, and cost. Uh, Here, the firstly the SWOT analysis was done for the client organization, which helped to identify the uh, procurement strategy which should be applied in order to make the in order to be beneficial for the client as well as other stakeholders. Uh, as discussed earlier, two contractors are procured, one for water supply and drainage, which has the major scope of work of the water supply pipe network, elevated storage reservoir construction, and construction of the sump. In the sewage infrastructure, sewage treatment plant is there, sewerage network is there, stormwater drain network is there. Uh, sew, uh, Contractor two, the scope is for construction of road infrastructure, which would include upgradation of road, new roads, and road amenities, as discussed in the work breakdown structure. The type of contract is percentage rate contract, as it works best for these types of projects, which are typical and have simple execution, which is to be done. Also, it saves the time and effort of detailed design before the procurement process, and thus it would be beneficial for the client as well as the contractor. The bidding process is single stage, one envelope bidding process. So overall, the procurement strategies help to uh, integrate all the and correlate all the previous done exercises and how the whole process of pre-execution is to be achieved. So now I would like to conclude my session with the key learnings of the work that is discussed earlier. In terms of problem and option analysis, it helped to identify the on-ground issues on site, and it was the initial exercises which was done. So it helped to identify the current issues and the things which need to be looked upon, and also it helped in defining the scope of the work, like what type of infrastructure development is needed in the village, and various things were identified in that. Coming on to the demand analysis, by the mode of household survey, there are various caste issues and social issues which are of a great concern for particularly infrastructure projects at rural level. So these issues were identified along with various views of villagers, and also the Gram Panchayat people were looked upon and analyzed, and further this helped in finding and identifying the gap for the infrastructure, and thus what are the things that are to be looked upon and need to be catered to was identified. Coming on to the location analysis, for particularly infrastructure projects at a smaller level, micro level analysis is of a great importance, and thus it helped us to uh, frame the uh, frame the base for what are the things that are to be done, and what are the alternatives and the options for the same which could be used, and does this help to identify the exact quantifiable things, like what would be the length of the total roads that are to be done, what would be the roads which are to be constructed, what kilometer of road would which are to be widened, etc. was identified. Also, in terms of water supply network, like uh, what are the what are the things that are to be looked upon, like in the what should be the height of the ESR, what should be the capacity of the ESR, that was, and also what should be the probable location of ESR, STP, and all were identified. Coming on to the target value design, as discussed, it was a great exercise which was conducted, it's a lean tool which focuses on having a collaborative approach to design, which would be beneficial for the project. So this helped us to it was a new experience which helped us to identify that how a collaborative approach could be of a great benefit to the project rather than a individual approach, and thus this could also be integrated and looked upon in terms of project team, or the project, that the people in any project should always work in a collaborative way rather than having individual viewpoints. Coming on to the work breakdown structure for village infrastructure development, this helped to identify the exact scope. Also, it formed a major base for identifying the work packages and the people and the procurement strategy was at a great benefit from a good by framing a good work breakdown structure as uh, the scope of work help to identify and give resources like who under whose scope what will come. It was also basis for the costing which was done as well as the scheduling which was done. So this exercise helped her to understand the importance for a work breakdown structure which should be very skillfully framed. Otherwise, it would be a loss to the project at a later stage if the flaws are not identified at the formulation stage. Coming on to the bid process management, it was the whole, in my point of view, it was a great ending exercise to the whole process and the whole working which was done for the studio. And it helped us to, like, it was a kind of like it helped us that to achieving a sense that the goal of the whole studio is achieved, like in terms of the pre execution phase is achieved, like from the starting of the conceptualization of the project, all the processes were identified, and at the end what are the procurement strategies that were developed which could be beneficial and which should be applied for the implementation stage were identified. Uh, yes, so this was it from my side. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your attention. And I would like to conclude my session here. Yeah, thank you.